Hey, what's going on, everybody? We are back for the Week 14 NFL Final Look picks. Fun slate this Sunday. Have some injuries at running back, at wide receiver that has changed the dynamics of the slate. So let's go ahead and get right into the breakdown. As always, if you enjoy the videos, appreciate it if the like button, subscribe if you haven't already. Only a couple more main Sundays left until we are into playoffs, so this is crunch time for a lot of these teams. Some of the teams that are already out of playoff contention. I want to kind of focus on teams that are really fighting for playoff seeding, and they have like a lot of need and a lot of will to play well. Some of these teams that like the Jags, the Jets, you just don't want to spend a lot of energy playing a lot of these players from these teams. So that's just the way I'm approaching it, and that's how I've always approached the end of the years for football. Typically, it's worked out well. Wouldn't expect anything different this time out. So looking at the quarterback plays this week, you have Patrick Mahomes at home against the Raiders. $8,000. Things have quickly come back to normal for the Chiefs, even though their offense has still not been putting up a lot of points. 22 last week against Denver, 19 against Dallas the week before that. Their defense has turned the switch. Early on the season, the Chiefs were the worst defense in football. The last couple of weeks, they've turned the switch, holding opponents to under 10 the last couple of weeks, back-to-back weeks there. Josh Allen, this game is going to be super fun to watch. You have the Bills going into Tampa to take on Tom Brady. The Bills have been such like an enigma this year. Their offense is not as dynamic as we think in some weeks. Other weeks they're putting up 40, but last week it was a snow game, terrible conditions. You can kind of just chalk that one up. But against like Indy, they got blown out there. Against Jacksonville, somehow they only put up 6 points. It's just been kind of an interesting ride. I would say this one, you'd expect this game to be super high scoring. So if you want to target some pieces from it, I'm all for it. I think it's going to be popular, so if you're looking to be different, you can go down to Justin Herbert at 71. Herbert is playing against the Giants. They're in the playoff race in the AFC. The great matchup against the Giants, and they should absolutely destroy this team. The Giants don't have Daniel Jones again this week. They're starting the neck guy, Mike Glennon. So Justin Herbert, plug him in right now. They don't have Keenan Allen, so it's easier to figure out who you want to stack Justin Herbert with this week, not having his favorite wide receiver. Then in the 6K range, you have Dak Prescott at 67. He's fine. Play him. Division game. Important game for both teams, especially for the Washington football team. But I expect Dak to produce at this price tag. You have Joe Burrow, 6,000 at home. He's really underpriced. There's not a lot of guys in the 6 to 7K range. You have Dak Prescott, who I like. Joe Burrow, who I like. Not that interested in Tannehill. Not that interested in Russell Wilson. 58, yeah, can maybe take a shot on Jimmy Garoppolo, but he just doesn't give you as high of a ceiling as some of the other quarterbacks in that range, and obviously doesn't give you as high of a ceiling as like Justin Herbert, Tom Brady, Josh Allen. At the bottom, you have Zach Wilson, who had a good game against Philly last week, but tough spot against the Saints. Don't want to play a lot of these guys in poor teams. And then you have Baker Mayfield down to just 52. He's good for tournaments. He only has 11 touchdown passes on the year. It's just like, he's not really been producing at all from a fantasy perspective. At running back, we have some big injuries. Eli Mitchell is out again this week. He missed a couple of weeks. He missed like 2 or 3 weeks in a row, and then he came back for 2 weeks. Played very well. But now he's out, so you're going to see Jeff Wilson start. And Jeff Wilson he was a starter in the weeks that Eli Mitchell was out. In those weeks, he had 19 touches, week 11. 10 touches week 10, and then week 12 was when Eli Mitchell returned. Expect him to draw the start. He should have had a much bigger game against Jacksonville. Jimmy Garoppolo overthrew him on a 5-yard touchdown pass where he was wide open, so that should have been like 14 right there. 44 is just really cheap. Like when he was 5K plus in the other starts, so you're even getting a cheaper price tag than that going up against Cincy, who's played well defensively, but 49ers love to run the ball. They don't really trust Jimmy Garoppolo to throw 45, 50 times a game. So they're relying on the running game. I think Wilson can also catch some passes. They have JaMychal Hasty as the backup, but they do not have Trey Sermon, who's on IR. They don't have Cannon. Also, obviously, Mostert's out for the year. So feel confident going with $4,400 Jeff Wilson. You probably want to get to one of these 2 top guys. You don't have nobody's breaking the bank at 83 and 79, but I will go with Kamara at 79. There's a chance that Mark Ingram isn't able to clear protocols in time, So we'll see if Ingram is not able to play this week, then I feel even more confident about Alvin Kamara and him getting back to his normal workload. They already said that he should handle his typical workload, but if they don't have Ingram, then he's probably going to be looking at 20 plus touches easily. Couldn't ask for a better matchup against the Jets. I think Kamara is ready to make up for some lost time and have a big week against the Jets. So on a week where you have a lot of value at running back, you have some value at wide receiver, pay up for Alvin Kamara. He's very cheap at 79 compared to what he should have been if he was healthy playing all these weeks and playing the Jets. You have $7,300 Ezekiel Elliott. There's a chance Pollard isn't able to play. That would make him look better if Pollard is out. If Pollard does play, then you could look to Zeke, but he's just been splitting time with Pollard, and Pollard has looked like the better running back. You have some good value at the bottom here, also not even including Jeff Wilson. We saw Javonte Williams look like a superstar against the Chiefs, but Melvin Gordon is expected to play, so that sucks. I still think you can look to him just because they'll probably give him more work. Just look after how dominant he looked against the Chiefs. The matchup is solid against the Lions, so he looks appealing. You have Saquon at 6,000. He's getting the targets. He's getting the carries. Looking at around 20 touches a game. It's just the problem is that the Giants' offense struggles to score touchdowns, and that limits a running back's upside. You have at the bottom 5K range Hilliard from the Titans. He had a good game last week. They are getting Jeremy McNichols back. I still think Hilliard is viable at 53. Don't know how much of a role McNichols will play in his return. But another value pick that you have all the way at the bottom at $4,100 is Jamar Jefferson from the Lions. They are missing Swift, and they're also missing the backup running back Williams. So Jefferson is going to draw the start. It's a matchup against Denver, who's been solid defensively this year. A couple of weeks he has produced. He can get you some targets out of the backfield. He has a couple touchdowns and just 10 carries. He is averaging a good amount of yards per rush, but it is a small sample size, so you can't read too much into that. 6.5, he has a 28-1. But at 4,000, getting a starting running back, probably going to get you double-digit touches. Looks like a good value. At wide receiver, we're playing Justin Herbert. Keenan Allen is not going to play. He's not going to be activated. So there's no Keenan Allen. However, it looks like Justin Herbert will at least have his second favorite weapon to target, and that is Mike Williams. And Williams is only $6,000. He still has the COVID-19-ish tag on DraftKings, but read the blurb. He's going to be able to play on Sunday. It's a great matchup against the Giants. The price tag on him is very reasonable, considering that he doesn't have to deal with Keenan Allen getting 13 targets. So I think this is a week that Mike Williams will absolutely go off. Wouldn't be surprised if he has one of the games that he had in the first couple of weeks, where he had 3 straight games of over 20. He had a couple of games over 35. Like Mike Williams, Justin Herbert's stack could break the slate this week. I don't want to just stop at Mike Williams. I think we can do a double stack, and that other guy is going to be Jalen Guyton at $3,400. He goes from being the wide receiver 3 to being the wide receiver 2. He hasn't been targeted very often this year because all the targets are going to Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, or Austin Eckler, and sometimes to the tight ends. Guyton has kind of been left out of the mix, but had a big, long touchdown grab last week against the Cincinnati, and this week, matchup against the Giants is just so appealing. They're at home. I expect him to pile up the points. The price tag on him is really reasonable. He should be out there 80+% of the snaps, and the price tag on him is almost at min price at 34. So I feel good about doing Justin Herbert, double stacking him with 2 wide receivers that look underpriced given the role. Other wide receivers that I would look to pay up for would be Stefon Diggs. I like Deebo Samuel at 8,000 if he does play. He's been basically like a running back for them when they haven't had Eli Mitchell. He had 6 carries, 8 carries, 5 carries, getting goal line carries in this span as well. So he does give you that double upside threat. The Bucks do not have Antonio Brown once again, so Godwin looks appealing at 71. The matchup is tough. You'd expect Godwin to have the better matchup than Mike Evans, playing mainly in the slot. In the 6K range, T. Higgins is questionable. It looks like he probably will play, but if he happens to be ruled out, then go to Jamar Chase at $6,900. Right at $6,100, you have Hunter Renfro. They do not have their tight end once again. Darren Waller has been ruled out, and Renfro has just been such a safe play with a lot of upside the last couple of weeks. 10 targets, 9 targets, in a 4-target game against Cincy, which was a blowout. Then he had 9, 9, 8, 8, 8, 6, 7, 1, 5 game, and a 9. He's just been such a target machine. Super reliable, consistent, double digits in all but 2 games this year. Upside of over 20 plus. Gives you some touchdown upside now that they don't have Darren Waller to throw to in their end zone. They don't have Kenyon Drake, a pass-catching running back. And so against KC, they're going to have to throw the ball. I would expect Renfro to flirt with 10 targets once again, and the price tag on him is really reasonable. Other plays at wide receiver, you can maybe look to like St. Brown. The Lions do not have TJ Hawkinson is doubtful, so one less body for Jared Goff to throw to. And then obviously he's not going to, I mean, that might make Jefferson look even better because he's going to have to throw the ball to somebody. And if he doesn't throw the ball to Hawkinson, he's looking to Swift and Williams. So I think Jefferson will get a lot of the targets from Jared Goff this week. At the bottom, if you wanted to punt with anybody, nobody of these guys looked at like a really super appealing. So for me, I'm just kind of looking to get to the guys that I know will get a lot of targets. Guyton would be the one guy that I have a lot of confidence in at 34, just without Keenan Allen. He should get a good amount of targets, at least like 5 to 6, with a big play upside and possibly some more touchdown upside. Just going up against the Giants, I think they'll pile up the points. At tight end, Travis Kelce looks to be the best. He always goes off against the Raiders, so this is a spot that you want to go to. Travis Kelce, both him and Tyreek Hill coming off poor performances against the Broncos. Expect them to get back on track, but I like Kelce more than Tyreek Hill this week. Kittle looks fine at 69, but you probably want to wait to see if Deebo Samuel is out. If Samuel is in, that hurts Kittle. 5K range, Dawson Knox right at 5K. He had some crucial misplays last week against the Patriots, but tough conditions. Hold the ball. 5,000 for a guy that does give you touchdown upside in probably a high-scoring type of game. You can sign me up for some of him. Foster Moreau's price tag has gone up at 4,000. He was super popular. He disappointed everybody. He had 1 catch for 34 yards. Nobody will probably play him this week after what he did to them last week. It's a fine spot to go to them. They're gonna have to throw the ball a lot this game. It's gonna go to Renfro. It's gonna go to him. It's gonna go to nobody else really. Maybe Josh Jacobs had like 9 targets last week. Maybe he gets into the action. And then at the bottom, you can maybe look to like Jared Cook, get some more targets this week. The Giants, Evan Ingram, potentially. They're still dealing with injuries at wide receiver the entire year, but having Mike Glennon as a quarterback isn't super fun. And that's maybe it. Logan Thomas, poor guy, tore his ACL and MCL last week after just returning from an injury. So you'll see Ricky Seals-Jones go back to getting a lot of the work at tight end. And on defenses, the Chargers are the most expensive defense. I probably still like the Titans better at 37. Broncos maybe look a little bit better at 38. But if you're playing Jefferson, you don't want to be playing the Broncos defense. But in the value range here, the Seahawks against Davis Mills. He's starting at quarterback for the Texans now. And then all the way, I wouldn't mind taking a shot on the $2,700 Bills. They are talented. Their price tags have come way down because they're facing off against Tom Brady on the road. But they're cheap enough to where I feel good about taking a shot there. Tom Brady has thrown some picks this year. Last week he threw a pick 6, so that's all you need for a defense hit value. And then I say maybe you can look to the Texans all the way at the bottom as like the pure punt defense. They're still waiting for the first defensive touchdown of the year. They've had a couple of good games recently. The Seahawks coming off of a win, but who knows? They have 8 losses. They're not really in any sort of contention. They just need to basically win out and hope for some more help. But that's about it for the DraftKings. Feel good about doing a double stack with Justin Herbert, Mike Williams, Guyton, plugging in Kamara, plugging in a target machine in Renfro, and then getting Jeff Wilson as a great value piece. So that's it for DK. Let's talk about FanDuel. So FanDuel, I tried to build a similar team to DraftKings for the most part. I like to cheer on the same players unless there's like a huge price discrepancy. But at quarterback, I like Justin Herbert at $8,400. You can go up to Josh Allen, go up to Mahomes, maybe go down to Tom Brady. But I feel good about going Justin Herbert at home against the poor Giants defense. The 7K range, Lamar Jackson is viable at 79. I don't want to really go to Taysom Hill or go to Wilson or go to Cam Newton or go to Tannehill or Bridgewater. The 7K range is pretty ugly. Maybe you can look to Derek Carr just because he typically plays well against the Chiefs, and that game should be higher scoring. And then I don't really want to take a shot on anybody in the 6K range. We have a lot of value on this slate, so be able to pay up at quarterback. Running back, still like Kamara slightly more than Eckler, facing off against the Jets. Kamara looks even better if Ingram isn't able to play. 7K range, Gibson, depending on the status of J.D. McKissick. I like Josh Jacobs. They don't have Kenyon Drake. They don't have Darren Waller. We saw Josh Jacobs get 9 targets last week, so he looks pretty good. A guy that gives you touchdown upside, gives you some targets also out of the backfield. Hilliard is way too expensive. Play him on DraftKings if you wanted to. Elliott looks better if they don't have Pollard today or tomorrow. In the bottom 5K range here, you do have Jeff Wilson, who is 51, I believe. He's 50. Let's see where he's 50. Well, actually, he's only $4,900. Only one Ellen Wilson. He's 49 going up against Cincy. Sign me up for that. He looks good on both sides. Wide receiver, CeeDee Lamb is pretty expensive, but it's a good spot against Washington. I still slightly prefer going up to Stefon Diggs, going up to Debo, going up to Tyreek Hill, going to Lamb. I think Godwin also looks fine, but probably like the guys at the top end more than him, even though Godwin coming off of a big week. But I got to pair, I have to pair Justin Herbert with his main guy, and that's going to be Mike Williams this week at $6,900. Marquise Brown looks good at 7K. The Baltimore-Cleveland games typically have been lower scoring this year, earlier this year than a couple years past. So I think there's some better spots to target, like Hunter Renfro, 67, just a target machine, gives you touchdown upside. Pretty safe just not having a couple of their better weapons. If there is no Debo, you can maybe look to Brandon Ayuk, although he was disappointing last week. The 5K range, maybe one of these two comes through. They're both basically the same price tag. It's just a guessing game. So that's not really one that you can make a lot of judgment with. But typically, it would be Emmanuel Sanders for me. But I know Beasley has gone off at times this year. At the bottom, I think you can still look to Jalen Guyton. He's 52, so a lot different than $3,400. But you're still going to run some routes, still get you some good targets. At tight end, want to pay up at tight end this week. I like Travis Kelce the most. He looks better than Kittle, than Gronk slightly. He's only a little bit more expensive than them. So just give me the best tight end in Travis Kelce going up against the Raiders at home. I like Dawson Knox at 6,000. You want to get a piece of the Bills offense. He gives you a bunch of upside. And then you can look to Foster Moreau at 52, but he's behind some of those guys that I just mentioned. And defense-wise, same type of deal. Like I like the Titans at the top end, the Saints going up against the Jets. You have the Chargers at only 43. They look good. And if you wanted to look to the Texans at 34, they'd be the cheapest one that I'm considering. So that's about it for the video. Thank you for watching. Best of luck tomorrow. Hopefully you guys kill it week 14, and we'll be back at it on Monday.